Lord will lead you. In today's hectic world, where people are often swept into the whirlwind of invisible temptations, the invitation, "Follow Lord," resounds like a lighthouse illuminating the dark sea. This is not merely a simple call, but the key that opens the path leading to inner peace and strength to overcome all challenges. When deciding to walk with Lord, one no longer wanders lost in the maze of greed and desire, but instead is guided by a sacred light, making the spirit steadfast and the mind clear. Imagine a journey where every step is illuminated by the light from Lord, bringing hope and fresh vitality. That is the promise of a meaningful life, where following Lord becomes the only choice to overcome the inner shadows. Modern life brings countless opportunities, but at the same time, it is fertile ground for greed and desire to flourish. Greed, like an underground river, seeps into the human mind, urging the pursuit of material things that are never enough. It can start from small desires, like owning another new technological gadget, then gradually turn into a storm, causing one to forget the true value of life. Uncontrolled desire is like a spreading fire, burning reason and making actions impulsive, leading to wrong decisions that have long-term effects on relationships and mental health. Think about a young person struggling in a fiercely competitive work environment. Initially, the desire is just to advance for a better life, but greed gradually transforms into envy of colleagues, leading to unhealthy behaviors like overworking to exhaustion or even cheating. Desire, in the form of fleeting emotional cravings, can cause one to fall into unsustainable relationships just to satisfy momentary emptiness. These struggles are not rare. They are an inevitable part of human nature, where inner weakness often prevails if there is no higher source of strength. However, it is in those dark moments that the invitation to follow Lord becomes more urgent than ever. Only when choosing the path of Lord can these raging waves be controlled, turning them into motivation for positive development. Following Lord is not escaping from reality, but facing it with a steadfast mindset. When walking with Lord, the spirit is strengthened by the faith that everything has a purpose, helping the mind avoid the chaos caused by greed. This is the radiant path, where every challenge becomes an opportunity to forge inner strength, leading to a balanced and meaningful life. When greed and desire surge, people often seek solutions from the world, perhaps through self-help books, psychological therapy, or even temporary pleasures. But these approaches only provide superficial relief, not touching the core of the problem. Only seeking Lord brings true change, for Lord is the one who created us, understanding every nook and cranny of the soul. By following Lord, one is guided along the path that Lord has outlined, a path not always easy, but always leading to light and hope. Imagine a woman struggling with uncontrolled shopping desires, leading to mounting debts. She tries to restrain herself by making financial plans, but greed returns even stronger. When deciding to seek Lord through prayer and reflection on the word of Lord, she realizes that true satisfaction does not lie in material things, but in living according to the will of Lord. This path brings her the strength to reject temptations, making the spirit resilient and the mind stable. Following Lord is the key to overcoming inner bonds, turning the struggle into a journey of victory. The counsel from Lord, expressed through the Bible, becomes the compass for every decision. When following the light from Lord, one is no longer dominated by desire, but instead guided by a supreme wisdom. This not only helps control greed, but also builds a solid spiritual foundation, where the mind always focuses on positive and sustainable things. Lord is the sacred guide that each one needs, especially in the battle against greed and desire. The path of following Lord is not a dark trail, but a brilliant avenue where every shadow dissipates. When choosing to walk with Lord, one is enveloped in continuous guidance, helping to avoid the traps of desire and greed. This is the rightful horizon, where life is no longer controlled by fleeting cravings, but oriented by a higher purpose. A typical example is the story of a successful entrepreneur who was once pushed to the brink of moral bankruptcy by greed, pursuit of profit at all costs, neglecting health and family. But when seeking Lord and deciding to follow the path of Lord, everything changed. The light from Lord helped realize the true value of honesty and sharing, leading to a more sustainable career. The spirit became steadfast, no longer wavering before temptations, and the mind nourished by inner joy. Following Lord is the way to achieve this balance, turning every challenge into a stepping stone for growth. To illustrate this truth, reflect together on a Bible passage from the Gospel of John 8-12. Jesus spoke again to the people, saying, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." This Bible passage clearly affirms that following Lord is stepping into light, where greed and desire have no place to dwell. The truth in Lord is not abstract theory, but living reality, helping to overcome inner darkness to enter a life full of hope. Only when following Lord does the spirit and mind truly become steadfast and good. In a world full of changes, where greed can cause loss of direction, the path of Lord brings stability like a solid rock. Think about times when desire surges, causing mental turmoil and leading to anxiety. By seeking Lord and following the counsel of Lord, one learns to control these impulses, replacing them with deep peace. A single mother who once struggled with emotional desires leading to wrong relationships found strength when deciding to follow Lord. Through reflection and applying the light from Lord to daily life, she built a resilient spirit, helping to face difficulties without being shaken. Her mind became more positive, focusing on long-term values instead of momentary ones. This is the power of following Lord, a radiant path where every aspect of life is illuminated and strengthened. The path does not only help fight greed, but also nourishes the soul, making one stronger before every temptation. When following Lord, one is no longer alone in the battle, but accompanied by an infinite source of strength, leading to comprehensive development in spirit and mind. Starting from the work environment, greed often manifests through fierce competition, where people are ready to sacrifice principles to advance. But when following Lord, one learns to work with integrity, viewing success as the result of sacred guidance rather than schemes. The light from Lord helps the spirit remain calm, avoiding stress and burnout, leading to a healthier mind. For example, a salesperson once dominated by the desire for profit, leading to deceiving customers. When choosing to follow Lord, joy is found in sincere service, turning work into a mission. The result is a steadfast spirit, and success comes naturally without greed. Next, in family relationships, desire can destroy bonds, like when a husband is drawn into external cravings, leading to conflicts. Following Lord brings guidance to build relationships based on loyalty and love. The mind is nourished by the light of Lord, helping to forgive oneself and others without falling into negative cycles. A couple once on the verge of divorce due to material greed found hope when together, following the path of Lord, turning the family into a safe haven. In the field of education and personal development, students are often pushed to cheat by the desire for achievement. But following Lord teaches the value of perseverance and true learning, making the spirit steadfast before pressure. The light of Lord illuminates, bringing internal motivation instead of external ambition. To understand more deeply about the path of following Lord as a rightful horizon to reduce ambition, it is necessary to delve into the nature of greed, an inner force, not just simple desire, but a deviation from sacred purpose. Greed is not an abstract concept. It is the manifestation of spiritual isolation, where people place themselves at the center of the universe, ignoring the harmony that Lord has established. Upon deep analysis, greed stems from a profound fear of scarcity, a fear nurtured by consumer society, where personal value is measured by possessions rather than connection with the Creator. It is in this context that following Lord emerges as a comprehensive solution, not only restraining, but also transforming ambition into motivation for higher service. The path of following Lord is rightful because it redirects ambition from selfish ego to dependence on the will of Lord, creating a wide open horizon where ambition is controlled by sacred light. Reflect on how greed operates like a negative loop. It starts from reasonable desires, but gradually expands into insatiable possession, leading to spiritual exhaustion. Upon deeper analysis, it is seen that this uncontrolled ambition often links with emotional desires, forming a binding network, causing human psychology to fall into instability. However, when choosing to follow Lord, one steps into a process of inner restructuring where the light from Lord illuminates every dark corner, helping to identify and eliminate the roots of wrong ambition. This is not denying natural desires, but elevating them under the guidance of Lord, turning ambition into a tool to fulfill sacred plans. The path of following Lord brings steadfastness by providing an eternal frame of reference, where worldly ambition is evaluated through the lens of eternity. Instead of chasing temporary goals, one learns to prioritize immortal values, reducing the burden of greed through internal contentment. In psychological analysis, greed often leads to cycles of anxiety and disappointment because satisfaction from material things is only short-term illusion. In contrast, following Lord creates a rightful horizon, where psychology is strengthened by the faith that Lord has prepared everything necessary, helping to reduce ambition naturally without forced effort. This is a gradual process, where each step following Lord strengthens inner power, turning ambition into positive motivation directed towards spiritual development. Uncontrolled desire, when analyzed thoroughly, reveals itself as a force that fragments the soul, causing people to be divided between reason and emotion. It is not only physical cravings, but also includes desires for power, fame, and recognition, all stemming from a spiritual void that only Lord can fill. In the modern world, this desire is amplified by media and social networks, creating illusions of unrealistic perfection, leading to continuous dissatisfaction. Therefore, the path of following Lord stands out as a rightful horizon, where desire is controlled by sacred guidance, bringing inner unity and reducing unnecessary conflicts. Expanding the idea, following Lord is correct because it provides a superior value system where desire is evaluated and adjusted according to the will of Lord. In deep analysis, uncontrolled desire often leads to behavioral deviations, where people act impulsively without considering long-term consequences, harming the spirit and relationships. However, under the light from Lord, one learns to distinguish between healthy desires, those aligned with the sacred plan, and destructive desires. This creates a wide-open horizon, reducing desire by replacing it with satisfaction from the presence of Lord, making the mind balanced and more steadfast than ever. Moreover, this path brings true freedom, for following Lord is not bondage, but liberation from the chains of desire. In philosophical analysis, desire is often seen as the source of suffering, as in many ancient philosophies. But Lord provides a unique approach, not denying desire, but guiding it along the radiant path. By reflecting on the word of Lord daily, one builds a spiritual habit that helps reduce desire, turning it into motivation for growth. This is why following Lord is the rightful horizon. It not only reduces, but also transforms desire, leading to a life full of meaning and peace. When analyzing deeply about human psychology, it is seen that ambition is often the result of inner insecurity, where people try to compensate for spiritual deficiencies by pursuing external things. This forms a negative loop, where greater ambition leads to deeper disappointment. The path of following Lord emerges as an optimal solution, for it reshapes psychology from the foundation, helping reduce ambition by focusing on dependence on Lord instead of self-reliance. Expanding this idea, following Lord is rightful because it provides a sustainable psychological model where ambition is controlled by sacred light. In analysis, modern psychology often emphasizes the role of cognition in controlling ambition, but Lord brings a deeper dimension: transformation from within through continuous guidance. By following this path, one learns to identify wrong ambition and replace it with goals aligned with the will of Lord, leading to natural reduction and a bright horizon where the spirit is always steadfast. Moreover, the path of following Lord creates psychological resilience, for it teaches viewing ambition through the lens of eternity. In deep analysis, worldly ambition often leads to exhaustion and isolation, but under the guidance of Lord, strength is found to overcome, reducing the burden through faith that Lord is the sole provider. This is the rightful horizon, where psychology is nourished by the light from Lord, turning every challenge into an opportunity to strengthen faith. The light from Lord, when analyzed carefully, is not just a symbol, but a living reality that helps reduce desire in every daily aspect. Desire often infiltrates habits, from financial decisions to entertainment choices, creating gradual deviations. The path of following Lord is correct because it illuminates these areas, bringing clarity and helping reduce desire by prioritizing sacred counsel. Following Lord creates a horizon where desire is controlled through continuous reflection, leading to sustainable behavioral change. In analysis, uncontrolled desire often leads to mental distraction, but the light of Lord helps focus on essentials, reducing the burden and bringing inner peace. A steadfast spirit is only achieved when following Lord, for this path builds a foundation against greed and desire. In deep analysis, this foundation is based on eternal faith, helping reduce ambition by replacing it with sacred purpose. This is the rightful horizon because it brings comprehensive development, where the spirit is strengthened daily through the guidance of Lord. When delving deeply into the philosophy of greed, it is recognized that it is not just a superficial psychological phenomenon, but an ontological deviation, a misalignment from the existential essence that Lord has designed for humanity. Greed represents the endless pursuit of finite things, creating an invisible void in the soul where satisfaction always evades. In deeper analysis, this ambition often originates from a mistaken perception of self. People regard themselves as the center of the universe, ignoring the cosmic harmony that Lord has created. It is in this context that the path of following Lord stands out as a rightful philosophical horizon, where ambition is transformed from a destructive force into a tool for sacred development, reducing the burden by redirecting all desires according to the will of Lord. Expanding this idea in a more subtle way, following Lord is not a passive action, but an active process of restructuring perception. Consider how greed operates like a negative feedback system. It amplifies dissatisfaction, leading to a ceaseless pursuit cycle, where each achievement only intensifies the thirst. From a philosophical perspective, this is similar to the concept of mimetic desire, where people imitate the desires of others, leading to internal conflict. However, under the sacred guidance of Lord, escape from this loop is achieved by learning to identify ambition through the lens of eternity. The light from Lord illuminates, helping to distinguish between selfish ambition and desires aligned with the grand plan, thereby deeply reducing ambition, bringing inner peace that the world cannot provide. This is why the path of following Lord is the rightful horizon. It not only restrains, but also elevates ambition, turning it into motivation for a harmonious and meaningful life. Moreover, in deep analysis of the spiritual aspect, following Lord creates a paradigm shift from materialism to spiritualism, where ambition is evaluated not by secular measures, but by alignment with the counsel from Lord. When expanding this thought, it is seen that greed often leads to existential fragmentation, where people are divided between ideals and reality. But the radiant path of Lord unifies these pieces, reducing ambition by filling the spiritual void with the continuous presence of Lord. The result is a more steadfast spirit, psychology strengthened by an unshakable foundation, helping to face every temptation without wavering. This is the true power of following Lord, a path leading to inner freedom, where ambition is no longer an enemy, but a companion under sacred guidance. Uncontrolled desire, when analyzed from a profound psychological perspective, reveals itself as a mistaken defense mechanism of the ego, where people use cravings to cover fundamental existential fears, fears of meaninglessness and isolation. In more thorough analysis, this desire often manifests in layers, from basic desires like physiological needs to abstract desires like thirst for power, all aimed at filling the void that only Lord can complete. In contemporary society, desire is nurtured by consumer culture and social networks, creating illusions of control, leading to prolonged psychological instability. Therefore, the path of following Lord emerges as a rightful psychological horizon, where desire is adjusted by sacred light, reducing it by replacing with eternal satisfaction from Lord. Following Lord is a spiritual therapeutic process, where one learns to analyze and classify desire through the counsel from Lord. Reflect on the psychological mechanism. Desire often operates like a dopamine reward system, creating short-term addiction, but leading to long-term exhaustion. From a cognitive perspective, this causes deviations in the decision-making system, where reason is obscured by desire. However, under the guidance of Lord, the mind is reprogrammed, using the light from Lord as an analytical tool, helping to identify destructive desire and reduce it systematically. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces, but also transforms desire, turning it into energy for spiritual development, leading to steadfast psychology and higher resilience before every challenge. Moreover, in deep analysis of the emotional aspect, uncontrolled desire often leads to emotional volatility, where people oscillate between excitement and despair. But the path of following Lord provides a stable foundation, reducing desire by nurturing emotions through sacred presence. When expanding this thought, it is seen that the light of Lord acts as an internal lighthouse, illuminating every corner of the soul, helping to build a sustainable emotional system. The result is that the spirit is no longer dominated by desire, but strengthened by the faith that Lord is the sole source of strength, bringing the rightful horizon where every desire is placed in its proper position. From a cosmological perspective, greed can be analyzed as a disruption of harmony, a force interrupting the natural flow that Lord has created, leading to inner and outer chaos. In deeper analysis, greed not only affects individuals, but also spreads to society, creating inequality and conflict. In this context, the path of following Lord is the rightful horizon, for it restores harmony by reducing greed through sacred guidance, helping people blend with the grand cosmic plan. Following Lord is a journey of reintegration, where greed is analyzed through the creative lens of Lord. Consider how greed acts as a centrifugal force, pushing people away from the sacred center. The light from Lord pulls back, reducing greed by emphasizing the value of simplicity and contentment. This is the radiant path, bringing steadfast spirit and balanced psychology, where every ambition serves the common harmony. Desire, when explored from the spiritual depths, is a manifestation of distance from Lord, a gap that creates insatiable longing. The path of following Lord is the comprehensive solution, reducing desire by filling that gap with sacred light. The counsel from Lord acts as a transformative tool, helping to analyze desire and convert it into positive motivation. The new cognitive framework from the path of Lord helps reduce ambition by redefining success through the sacred lens. From the profound perspective, meaning exploring the deepest existential essence of humanity, greed is not just a behavioral habit, but also an alienation from the sacred source, a straying that obscures the human soul with the illusory shell of possession. In more thorough analysis, greed represents a subtle rebellion against the cosmic order that Lord has created, where all creatures are designed to exist in mutual dependence and harmony with the Creator. It is like a crack in the existential structure, where people try to fill an infinite void with finite things, leading to spiritual exhaustion and a chain of negative reactions, from envy to despair, from possession to isolation. In this depth, the path of following Lord stands out as a rightful ontological horizon, a journey to restore the true essence of humanity by reducing greed through sacred guidance, reconnecting the soul with the source of eternal strength. With philosophical subtlety, following Lord is an ontological rebirth process, where greed is analyzed not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a symptom of distance from Lord. Reflect deeply on this mechanism. Greed often stems from existential fear of impermanence and meaninglessness, causing people to cling to material things as an illusory safety. From a Heideggerian perspective, this is similar to fallenness into the world, where people are drawn into daily concerns while forgetting the authentic essence. However, the light from Lord acts as a call to return, reducing greed by illuminating the truth that all possessions are temporary, and only dependence on Lord brings true existence. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces, but also transforms greed into gratitude and sharing, leading to a steadfast spirit where psychology is liberated from the shackles of ambition, opening the horizon of eternal peace. Moreover, in deep analysis of the metaphysical aspect, the path of following Lord provides a comprehensive metaphysical framework, where greed is evaluated through the lens of Lord's creation. When expanding this thought, it is recognized that greed breaks the principle of sufficiency that Lord has established, the principle through which all creatures find balance. By following the counsel from Lord, that principle is reestablished, reducing greed through continuous reflection on sacred purpose, turning every desire into part of a grander picture. The result is that human psychology is no longer disrupted by insatiable ambition, but strengthened by a solid ontological foundation, where all existence directs toward the Lord as the source and ultimate destination. This is the profound appeal of the path of following Lord, a rightful horizon that brings existential unity, helping people live fully without being dominated by greed. Uncontrolled desire, when analyzed from the depths of psychology, beyond the surface to touch the unconscious, reveals itself as a complex defense mechanism, where people use cravings to cover deep spiritual wounds, from feelings of insecurity to fear of rejection. In more thorough analysis, this desire often operates as a self-reinforcing loop system. Starting from a basic need, it quickly escalates into addiction, leading to emotional imbalance and distorted perception of reality. In Freudian theory, desire is similar to the id, the uncontrolled instinctual force, conflicting with the superego, creating psychological civil war. It is in this depth that the path of following Lord emerges as a rightful internal psychological therapy, a horizon where desire is transformed through sacred light, reducing it by integrating into a higher value system, bringing healing from the roots. Expanding this idea with psychological subtlety, following Lord is a process of restructuring the unconscious, where desire is analyzed through the lens of the Word of Lord to identify and release hidden conflicts. Reflect deeply on how desire operates. It often links with behavioral patterns from the past, like experiences of deprivation in childhood, leading to ceaseless compensatory pursuit. From a Jungian perspective, desire may be a manifestation of the shadow, the repressed part of the self, needing integration to achieve wholeness. The light from Lord provides this integration tool, reducing desire by illuminating the shadow with sacred truth, turning it into energy for growth instead of destruction. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces, but also elevates desire, leading to steadfast psychology, where emotions are balanced and the spirit is strengthened by the continuous presence of Lord. Moreover, in deep analysis of the cognitive behavioral aspect, the path of following Lord acts as an advanced behavioral change model, where desire is adjusted through habits of reflection and application of counsel from Lord. When expanding this thought, it is seen that desire often leads to cognitive distortions, like illusions of happiness from fleeting cravings. But under sacred guidance, perception is reshaped, reducing desire by prioritizing eternal values, creating a positive cycle of internal satisfaction. The result is that the spirit is no longer enslaved by desire, but liberated to direct toward the rightful horizon, where every psychological aspect harmonizes under the light of Lord, bringing profound and sustainable inner strength. From the philosophical perspective on freedom, greed can be analyzed as a subtle form of slavery, where people are bound by their own desires, leading to the loss of true freedom. In deeper analysis, from a Kierkegaardian viewpoint, greed is a manifestation of despair, the failure to become one's true self before Lord. The path of following Lord is the rightful horizon of freedom, reducing ambition by liberating the soul through sacred guidance. Following Lord brings freedom by redefining ambition through the lens of faith, turning it into part of the sacred journey. From the spiritual depths, where the human soul is explored as a living entity, always longing for connection with the transcendent one, the light from Lord is not just an abstract symbol, but a real transformative energy source, a sacred force permeating every layer of consciousness and unconsciousness. In more thorough analysis, this light can be understood as a flow of grace, similar to the concept of inner light in mystical traditions, where it illuminates the dark corners of desire, not by brutal suppression, but by gentle persuasion, guiding people from inner chaos to sacred harmony. Uncontrolled desire, in this spiritual analysis, often stems from a basic spiritual deficiency, a void that the world tries to fill with temporary cravings, leading to cycles of suffering and dissatisfaction. It is the light from Lord through daily reflection that becomes the tool to reduce desire, for it nourishes the soul with continuous presence, turning desire from a dominator into a part dependent on the will of Lord. Expanding this idea with profound spiritual subtlety, daily reflection, a practice like watering the soul with the word of Lord, acts as an internal sanctification process where desire is analyzed and restructured layer by layer. Reflect deeply on this mechanism. Desire often manifests as instinctual impulses, nurtured by a culture emphasizing instant gratification, leading to deviation from sacred purpose. From the perspective of theologians like St. Augustine, desire is a disorder of love, loving finite things more than the infinite one. The light from Lord, through reflection, remedies this by redirecting love, reducing desire by replacing it with longing for Lord, creating a positive cycle of spiritual growth. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces superficial desire, but also heals the spiritual roots, leading to steadfast psychology where emotions are controlled by peace from Lord, opening the rightful horizon of true inner freedom. Moreover, in deep analysis of the transformative aspect, daily reflection under the light of Lord creates a gradual spiritual shift, where desire is evaluated through the lens of the Word of Lord to identify the most subtle manifestations, from desires for power to emotional desires. When expanding this thought, it is seen that desire often leads to soul fragmentation, where people are divided between sacred ideals and worldly reality. But the light of Lord unifies these pieces, reducing desire by filling the soul with eternal fullness, turning reflection into a daily ritual that strengthens the spirit. The result is that the path of following Lord becomes the rightful horizon, where desire is no longer a burden, but an opportunity to deepen the relationship with Lord, bringing profound inner strength and a psychology nourished by the unextinguishable source of light. Building a new paradigm for life, a comprehensive framework of thought that reshapes how people perceive reality through following Lord, is not just a superficial change, but a profound restructuring process, where greed is overcome by placing sacred purpose at the center of all existence. In more thorough analysis, the old worldly paradigm often relies on materialism, where greed is seen as a development motivator, leading to the endless pursuit of temporary achievements and a chain of negative consequences, from spiritual exhaustion to the destruction of relationships. From a Kuhnian perspective on paradigm shifts in science, following Lord represents a spiritual revolution where the new paradigm replaces greed with dependence on Lord, reducing it by redefining success not as possession, but as alignment with the sacred plan. Expanding this idea with philosophical and spiritual depth, following Lord is a journey to build a sustainable paradigm where greed is analyzed as an existential illusion, clinging to finite things to cover the fear of impermanence. Reflect deeply on this process. Greed often operates as a self-reinforcing system, nurtured by society, emphasizing competition, and accumulation, leading to internal instability. The new paradigm from Lord remedies this by restructuring life around eternal values like humility, gratitude, and service, reducing greed through reflection and application of counsel from Lord in every daily decision. This is the radiant path, for it not only overcomes greed but also turns life into a meaningful journey, leading to steadfast spirit where psychology is protected from the fluctuations of ambition, opening the rightful horizon of true peace and purpose. Moreover, in deep analysis of the comprehensive aspect, this new paradigm encompasses every area of life, from work to relationships, where greed is reduced by integrating the light of Lord into daily structure. When expanding this thought, it is recognized that greed often leads to existential isolation, where people are separated from community and the Creator. But through following Lord, the new paradigm promotes connection, reducing greed by emphasizing the value of sharing and mutual dependence under sacred guidance. The result is that this path becomes the rightful horizon, where life is no longer dominated by greed, but shaped by higher purpose, bringing profound inner strength, a balanced psychology, and the ability to face every challenge with unshakable faith. From the profound metaphysical perspective, where reality is explored through the lens of unchanging principles beyond the material world, greed appears as a grand internal conflict, a war between the finite forces of the ego and the infinity of the Creator. In more thorough analysis, greed is not just a personal craving, but a metaphysical distortion, where people try to usurp the role of Lord by turning themselves into the sole provider, leading to the collapse of inner cosmic order. Similar to Platonic philosophy, greed is the confusion between forms, eternal ideas, and shadows, the sensory world, imprisoning the soul in the dark cave of desire. It is in this metaphysical depth that the path of following Lord stands out as an eternal revelation, a rightful horizon where sacred light dispels the darkness of greed, reducing it by re-establishing harmony between creature and Creator, bringing the metaphysical unity that only Lord can bestow. Expanding this idea with enchanting metaphysical subtlety, following Lord is a journey of return to the metaphysical source, where greed is analyzed as an existential illusion, a subtle denial of the infinite abundance of Lord. Reflect deeply on the internal war. Greed often manifests as a centrifugal force, pulling the soul away from the sacred center, leading to metaphysical chaos where all values are inverted. From the perspective of St. Thomas Aquinas, greed is the abuse of free will, a gift from Lord, to pursue secondary goods instead of the supreme good. The light from Lord, through eternal counsel, resolves this conflict by reducing greed through gradual revelation, transforming it from a destructive force into motivation towards sacred perfection. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces, but also elevates the internal war into a journey of ascension, leading to a steadfast spirit where psychology is enveloped in metaphysical peace, opening the rightful horizon of eternal existence and profound meaning. Moreover, in deep analysis of the revelatory aspect, the path of following Lord creates a comprehensive metaphysical shift, where greed is evaluated through the lens of Lord's creation to identify the most subtle manifestations, from ambitions for power to cravings for material things. When expanding this thought, we recognize that greed often leads to metaphysical isolation, where people are separated from the cosmic flow of grace. But through following Lord, the eternal revelation fills that gap, reducing greed by emphasizing the value of humility and dependence, turning life into a harmonious symphony under sacred direction. The result is that the spirit is no longer dominated by conflict, but strengthened by an unshakable metaphysical foundation, bringing enchanting inner strength and a psychology nourished by the inexhaustible source of light, where every ambition dissolves before the beauty of Lord's truth. From the depths of existential psychology, where human life is analyzed through the lens of choice, meaning, and basic anxiety, uncontrolled desire appears as a source of existential unease, a force that makes people flee from reality by immersing in fleeting cravings. In more thorough analysis, this desire often originates from fear before the void, angst before the void, as Nietzsche described, where people use desire to cover the inherent meaninglessness of life without Lord. It creates a negative existential loop. Desire leads to temporary satisfaction, then rekindles deeper unease, trapping the soul in a whirlwind of emptiness. It is in this existential depth that the path of following Lord stands out as a rightful source of existential strength, a horizon where sacred guidance rebirths the soul, reducing desire by filling the void with eternal meaning, bringing existential freedom that only Lord can bestow. Expanding this idea with persuasive existential subtlety, following Lord is a journey of soul rebirth, where desire is analyzed as an evasion from the authentic call of existence. Reflect deeply on this source of strength. Desire often operates as an existential defense mechanism, concealing the fear of death and impermanence by pursuing superficial pursuits. From Sartre's perspective, desire is a bad faith project, a self-deceptive choice to avoid existential responsibility. The guidance of Lord remedies this by reducing desire through gradual rebirth, transforming it from an obstructive force into motivation towards sacred authenticity. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces, but also transforms desire into part of a meaningful existential journey, leading to steadfast psychology, where the spirit is enveloped in inner strength, opening the rightful horizon of freedom and profound purpose. Moreover, in deep analysis of the rebirth aspect, the path of following Lord creates a comprehensive existential shift, where desire is evaluated through the lens of the Word of Lord to identify the most subtle manifestations, from emotional desires to cravings for fame. When expanding this thought, we recognize that desire often leads to existential alienation, where people are separated from their authentic self and community. But through sacred guidance, the soul is reborn, reducing desire by emphasizing the value of presence and acceptance, turning life into an existential, heroic epic under the light of Lord. The result is that the spirit is no longer enslaved by desire, but strengthened by an unshakable existential foundation, bringing enchanting inner strength and a psychology nourished by the inexhaustible source of light, where every desire dissolves before the beauty of Lord's truth. From the profound theological perspective, where the relationship between humanity and Lord is explored through the lens of grace and revelation, greed appears as a subtle betrayal of Lord's grace. A choice to turn away from the infinite source of abundance to pursue finite things. In more thorough analysis, greed is a manifestation of original sin in Christian theology, where people attempt self-salvation by their own strength, leading to separation from Lord and a chain of theological consequences, from the loss of grace to inner chaos. It is in this theological depth that the path of following Lord stands out as a rightful revelation of grace, a horizon where sacred light illuminates infinitely, reducing greed by reestablishing the grace relationship, bringing salvation that only Lord can impart. Following Lord is a journey of receiving revelation, where greed is analyzed as a rejection of grace to identify and eliminate theological roots. Reflect deeply on this source of illumination. Greed often acts as a force obscuring grace, leading to spiritual aridity. From the perspective of St. John of the Cross, greed is the dark night of the soul, a necessary stage for purification. The light from Lord remedies this by reducing greed through gradual revelation, transforming it into motivation toward holiness. This is the radiant path, for it not only reduces, but also transforms greed into part of the theological journey, leading to steadfast spirit where psychology is enveloped in grace, opening the rightful horizon of salvation and eternal peace.